Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are breaking down an incredibly inspiring, true story that completely redefines what it means to overcome severe adversity. I mean, this isn't just your standard rags to riches tale. It's a literal blueprint of sheer willpower, resilience, and the absolute undeniable power of hard work. We're going to map out exactly how an impossible situation was transformed into a life of massive prosperity.
It's a question we've all asked ourselves at some point, right? Can you achieve success without luck? So often, when we look at highly successful people, society kind of tends to whisper that they must have had some hidden advantage, a lucky break, or some right place, right time magic. But today, we're taking a close look at the life of our protagonist, Ram. And as we go through this, I really want you to ask yourself, how much of his story was luck and how much was pure, relentless, unyielding effort?
Okay, let's dive into this with part 1, Poor Ram's Beginning.
To truly grasp the heights of Ram's eventual success, we have to look at the harsh reality of where he started. His story kicks off in a small, humble village, and the circumstances of his early life were defined by this intense, suffocating poverty. His dad was a farm laborer, working the fields literally just to scrape by, while his mom worked as a domestic helper in other people's homes. Their living conditions were incredibly tough. They lived under a leaky roof, and things were so tight that a lot of the time, the family couldn't even afford 2 meals a day. Poverty was so entrenched in his daily existence that Ram didn't even have shoes for school. He would walk kilometers every single day entirely barefoot just to get his education. Try to just imagine that level of daily physical sacrifice just to be able to sit in a classroom.
Moving on to part 2, Father's Priceless Lesson.
When you grow up in that kind of intense poverty, it's so easy to become bitter or defeated. But Ram received a different kind of inheritance from his father. It wasn't money or land, but an incredibly powerful mindset. His father looked at him one day and said these exact words: "We don't have money, but we have the power of hard work. That is our biggest wealth." Actually, let that sink in for a second. In a world where they had absolutely nothing material to their name, no proper roof, no steady food, no shoes, his father reframed their entire reality. He taught Ram that their capacity to endure and work hard was basically an internal bank account that no one could ever take away from them. And those words deeply anchored themselves in Ram's heart.
Which brings us to part 3, Relentless Struggle and Hard Work.
Armed with this new perspective, Ram entered his teenage years and essentially weaponized his father's words against his circumstances. And this timeline brilliantly illustrates what hard work actually looked like for him on a daily basis. Check this out. At 4 a.m., Ram was awake and studying. By 8 a.m., he was at school, and his day definitely didn't end with the school bell. 3 p.m., farm labor. 6 p.m., delivering newspapers. 8 p.m., working at a local tea stall. Honestly, looking at that makes an 8-hour office shift look like an absolute vacation, right? He was a student, a laborer, a delivery boy, and a tea worker all squeezed into a single 24-hour cycle.
Now, naturally, when you operate at a frequency that high, people around you simply don't understand it. Ram faced intense societal mockery for this. The villagers, watching this young kid run himself ragged day in and day out, would literally laugh at him and ask, "What will you get by working so hard?" They just couldn't see the vision. They only saw the struggle, and they thought he was foolish for fighting so hard against a poverty they all believed was permanent.
But Ram never let the naysayers break his focus. He didn't argue, he didn't get angry, he would simply smile at the villagers and respond with this unshakable statement: "Today's hard work will change my tomorrow." That right there is undeniable proof of his mindset. He understood something fundamental. He wasn't working just for the meager wages of the tea stall or the newspaper route. He was literally buying a different future, one day of exhausting labor at a time.
Let's move to part 4, Business and Massive Success. Let's see how this all builds, because years passed and that compounding effort finally began to break the dam. Ram transitioned from that grueling phase of pure survival and labor into the world of business, paving his way toward massive, life-altering success. And the progression wasn't magic. It was highly methodical. From those incredibly long days, Ram managed to create some small savings. He took those savings and, fueled by absolute honesty and a continuous habit of learning, he started a small trade. Now, it's super important to point out here, he faced early losses. He failed. But because of his resilient foundation, he didn't just throw in the towel. He learned from every single failure. Soon, one shop turned into multiple shops, and eventually, the whole shebang evolved into a massive corporate company. Just look at the sheer scale of the contrast on this slide. On the left, we have the barefoot child with a leaky roof and an empty stomach. On the right, the reality he built for himself, a top city industrialist.
We are talking about a man who eventually owned millions in property, a massive house, and luxury cars. He completely overwrote his destiny through relentless execution.
But true success isn't just about what you accumulate for yourself, it's about what you do with it. Despite reaching the absolute peak of wealth, Ram never forgot the reality of his own poverty. He stayed incredibly grounded. He actually went back to his community and built a school in his village so that other kids wouldn't have to walk kilometers barefoot like he did. He actively funded the education of poor children and provided numerous jobs to the locals. He used his wealth to ensure that the ladder he climbed was left down for others to use too.
Which brings us to part 5, the true secret of success.
As Ram became recognized as one of the top industrialists in his city, a journalist finally asked him for his biggest secret to success. Ram smiled, much like he did at the Villagers all those years ago, and gave this profoundly simple answer. I never chased becoming rich. I worked every day to better myself. Money is the result of hard work, not the goal. So the crucial takeaway here is this. Ram detached himself from the outcome and just fell in love with the process of self-improvement. The massive wealth, the cars, the properties, they were really just the byproduct of a daily, unyielding dedication to being better today than he was yesterday.
The moral of this source material is crystal clear. Hard work never goes to waste. The one who struggles today writes a new story of success tomorrow. It reminds us that patience, relentless effort, and honesty are literal forces of nature. If you apply them long enough, you eventually reach a tipping point, a place where even luck itself seemingly decides to step in and start working in your favor.
Poverty, or honestly whatever your current struggle might be right now, is a circumstance. It's not your permanent identity. Ram's life proves that you absolutely have the power to rewrite the script entirely. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to take into your own life. If today's effort dictates tomorrow's reality, what will your hard work build tomorrow?